Hi, I'm Dawn and this is where Shabby meets Bling. Tonight I'm going to be using Thrifted styrofoam to create spring decor. Yeah, styrofoam. Just watch. This is Spring and Easter, a Can't Sleep Creations collaboration. I would like to thank my co-hosts Jody from Jody at Southern Seasons and Monica from Up All Night DIY for joining me tonight. You're going to find the links to their channels as well as this playlist in my description box below. I love bunnies. I used to have a bunny come visit me every day at my front door, and that's no joke. But this little bunny was inspirational. I found it while I was thrifting for $1. So I vaguely did a sketch of this cute little bunny, and I am going to recreate it in 3D form. Not sure how I'm going to decorate it yet, but I do know I will be using styrofoam. I have to fine-tune my drawing to some degree because I will be using this as a pattern on my styrofoam. I will refer now and again to that little bunny that I purchased just to make sure I'm getting my dimensions the way I want them. I have created quite a few characters out of styrofoam in the past, like this, and this, and this. And I'm going to leave the links to those videos in my description box. Once I get my little bunny fine-tuned, then I am going to proceed to tape it together because her little fanny went off my original sheet. So I will tape the pieces together that need to be together, and then I will proceed to cut her out. Once I have my pattern cut, then the fun begins. This styrofoam round, she really made the rounds from retail to Goodwill to my thrift shop. So I am going to open this up and we are going to trace my pattern right onto this styrofoam round. I am placing the bunny where I can get the most bang for my buck, shall we say, out of this round. And this seems to be the logical place to put her. So I'm just going to trace the parts that will fit on here for now, and I will have to use parts of this and scrap to build the rest of my little bunny. My bunny has a name. Her name is Dottie. This is in tribute to that beautiful little bunny that used to visit me at my front door. She even one time brought her little baby bunnies to visit me, and I'm telling you, so special. So this is my tribute to Dottie. Once it is traced the way I want it, I begin to carve. Now, I have purchased a while back, I purchased one of those hot melt irons that you cut styrofoam with, and I'm telling you, it did not work for what I'm doing here. And I've tried it and it tended just to melt and leave strings everywhere. So I'm just utilizing my little trusty knife. I love this thing. I have another one that's much sharper, but I'm only use that for certain things because it is dangerous. So I use this, I cut out my form, I check my pattern from time to time, and this is what we have. I am going to be using this part that I cut away from her back as her neck. You can see how it almost fits just perfect, but not quite. So what I'll do is I will take that piece and I'm gonna sand it down. I'm gonna sand it so that little curve does fit on there real nice and snug. Once I get it to the point where it will fit on there, I apply my stencil again, my bunny stencil, and I trace out her little neck, and then I cut it out. Now that I have her neck, it is on to her little head, and I am going to use a styrofoam ball that I picked up for 50 cents at my favorite resale shop. I trim it down so that it resembles what I need for her head. Since her little head is around, that piece that I used from her back is not shaped right to marry the round ball to. So I am just kind of eyeballing here and using my Sharpie to draw out where I need to cut the neck out so that the styrofoam ball that I'm using for her head will fit properly. Once traced, I cut it out using my knife, and I use my sandpaper again to make sure it fits nice and smooth and snug with the styrofoam ball, which will eventually be her head. I am basically creating a 3D jigsaw puzzle. These pieces have to fit nice and perfect together or it will not look right. And hopefully when I'm done, she looks like a bunny rabbit. Now Dottie needs some legs. She needs 2 legs and she needs 2 arms. Now you see I did cut out arms on her and you'll see why in a little bit because her arms are going to be partially in, I guess you got to see it to understand what I'm talking about. So here's another styrofoam ball I picked up for 50 cents at a resale shop. The styrofoam ball will act as her legs. At least the top part of her legs. This scrap piece will act as the bottom part, her little feet. I need to get 2 feet out of this. 2 feet, ha! 2 bunny feet, 2 rabbit's feet out of this. So I arrange my pattern as best I can so I can make sure I get 2 feet out of this piece. I will cut the styrofoam ball in half, half for one leg and half for the other. I will be connecting all of my pieces together with these wood dowels and my hot glue gun, which I have set at a very low temperature. High temperature will melt most styrofoams. Here's a look at Dottie at this point. Nothing below her little bottom is attached yet. I have cut out the feet and I've cut out her little upper part of her leg. She is just balanced on those feet, but I have drawn out part of her head that I am going to need to cut away. Now it's time to define certain areas on Dottie. Her arms and definitely her tail. I am just using my Sharpie once again to designate the areas that need to be removed. Remember I mentioned something about the arms earlier? Well, this is what I was talking about. We are creating 2 separate arms. I need a division in the middle so you can tell there's 2 separate arms. Same for the tail. Right now it's just a big blob on the back of her body. So I'm using my Sharpie to define the areas that I want to remove. Once designated those areas, they've got to go. So I begin trimming off any areas that just don't belong. As I said, I had the one upper part of the leg complete. So now I need to address that other half of that styrofoam ball. I need them to be the same thickness or relatively the same. So I'm using my little trick by just sitting my little Sharpie on the edge of my one leg. So when I move the legs around, I am transferring the same thickness from one leg to the other. And now I know where I need to cut that second leg. I've already completed one arm. Now I need to get the other one completed. You can see how I've added some arm on to the exterior. So she really is dimensional. She's not a flat bunny. That would be bad. That's sad. Don't say that, Dawn. Okay, so I'm using a piece of scrap and I am creating her shoulder and the exterior part of her arm. To get that extra styrofoam off, I am just running the blade of my knife along the edge of the styrofoam, almost like a rasp. Now, here you're going to see that it's gonna fit just like this, and it's still way too big. It's still way too big, and I need to just keep at it until I get it where I want it. Once I do get it to the point where it resembles the other arm, I am going to use a couple of my little wood dowels and my hot glue set at that low temperature to glue it on. And once it's on, I will sand it so that it looks just like the other side. And I even carve out part of the inside of the arm so that the arm looks continuous. Dottie is now completely assembled and I need to fill those gaps. And what I'm going to do is I am going to use my one time. Now, one time is a spackling. Everybody's used to using spackling, but this is a very, very fine spackling and it is much softer and it holds together better. It doesn't clump. You can see it's almost like whipped cream or frosting. Yummy, I'm making myself hungry. So I am just filling all of my gaps. I'm even going to put some all over her, just real thin to kind of seal the styrofoam. Because I am going to give little Miss Dottie some fur, I feel like I made her tummy a little too big. So we're gonna chop this part off. I am gonna give her a little bit of plastic surgery. I'm gonna get a little styrofoam surgery, and she's gonna have some liposuction. And I'm going to take this little area right on out. She's going to get slim and trim. So I've designated, once again, areas that need to be removed. I also feel her tail is a little too high. So I'm going to cut her tail off and I'm going to move it down. Surgery is now in progress. I get a little piece of styrofoam underneath her so I don't go through my table, and I start chopping away until I get her exactly the way I want her to be. A little chop here, a little chop there, and Dottie is slim and trim, ready to go hopping around this Easter. Little girl needs some ears, so I have a partial piece of a styrofoam cone that is a scrap that I'm going to be using for her ears, which is pretty cool because the back part will have a nice gentle curve to it. All I need to do is trace out her ears. I trace one direction and then I'm gonna flip it over if I can, because I'm klutzy tonight, and I'm going to trace out the other side. The second image will be an identical yet mirror image of the first ear. Once her ears are cut out, I sand them down and add a very thin layer of one-time. When I'm ready, I will also attach these with hot glue, but instead of dowels, I will use wire. All final sanding has been completed, and now I am adding a coat of Waverly chalk paint. This is a snow white to her entire body and to her ears. I did mention that Dottie is going to get some fur, and that fur is going to take the form of this stuff. This is my one-time mixed with a little bit of gloss Mod Podge, and I use gloss simply because I have more of it and I don't want to waste my mat, which I use all the time. I am going to be putting it into this container, which is a condiment container, the little squirty, for ketchup and mustard and whatnot, that I picked up in a 2-pack at the dollar store, so Dollar Tree actually. I am going to put what I already had in the bottle into my new mixture, combine them together, and then put them back into that condiment bottle. That way the consistency is the same from the top of that bottle all the way down to the bottom. I am now taking that mixture and I am applying it to my bunny. I am just doing little lines, small lines, dot and drag all down her foot. I'm starting at the bottom and working my way up. I work in small sections at a time. Once I'm done with my dot and drag, I get out an old paintbrush and I gently tap down the dot and drag lines that I created earlier. I have not let any time lapse between the creation of the lines and tapping them down. I am creating a more fluffy look, shall we say. Instantly after I'm done tapping, I come back with a quilting pin and I am using it to create a fur-like pattern. You want to make sure you do work in small sections at a time, because if this sets, you will not be able to work with it. So if you do start a section, make sure you have time to finish it. I will continue this entire process all over the entire bunny. As each section of Dottie's fur is dry, completely dry and firm to the touch, I add a coat of matte Mod Podge. The Podge not only seals Dottie's fur, but adds strength as well. I've made Miss Dottie some ears so she can hear, but this little girl needs to see where she's going, where she's hopping about. I am going to be using a couple of little wood balls for her eyes. I already have her right eye in, and now it's time to work on her left eye. Using my knife, I am creating a cavity that little wood ball will fit into. I need to be sure it is very symmetrical to the other eye, and it needs to be deep enough to make sure that it goes into the socket with leaving a little bit of the eye exposed, because I will be building up around that eye with one time. Once I am sure her little eye fits, I fill the entire cavity with one time and then insert the little wood eye and then smooth out the one time around her eye. Then I will sit and let it dry. Now that Dottie has two eyes to see, she needs those eyes to be a pretty color. So I am painting them in. She's gonna have beautiful brown eyes. I am using an apple barrel plaid matte paint, and this color is called Nutmeg Brown. After I have the brown painted on both eyes, I will let it dry, and I will come back with another plaid apple barrel matte, and this is going to be a black paint to create her little pupils. And then I will come back with another plaid paint in white to add the tiniest of little highlights to both of her eyes. Once her eyes are finished, I will carve out her nose and mouth in the same fashion as I did the eye sockets. Then I will finish giving her fur and attach her ears, and she will be ready to go. But she will need a little decoration. I found this cute little basket while thrifting and thought it is adorable, and with a handle it might make a nice Easter basket. I dug into my basket making supplies and dug out the thinnest reeds I had, and I am cutting 6 equal lengths. I used these reeds not that long ago in this video. I'll leave the link in the description box. Once I have my lengths cut, I am putting them into a pan. I have a small amount of water in the bottom of this pan. I'm going to put it on the stove and bring it to a boil, then turn off the flame and let my reeds steam until they're nice and pliable. It's nice when you have the extra time to go to the extent of making your job easier. Here are my reeds, soaking wet and extremely pliable, also very hot. So be careful, I did use tongs. What I'm doing is I'm going to arrange these little reeds in pattern of 2, 2, and 2. I am clipping them to my little board, and I am going to weave them like you will see on a lot of baskets. This is a very common pattern. I take my time to make sure my braiding is even all the way down. I am leaving a couple inches exposed at either end, so I have something to insert into my little basket. Once my braiding is complete and the braid is still pliable, I will insert it into my basket to form the handle. I will clip it in place on both sides and let it dry overnight. And if it's still not totally dry, I will leave it until it is. Here she is, totally dry, looking like she always had that handle. You can see how I put it into the top of the basket, 2, 2, and 2, and then where I clipped it, they dried really nice. Now I'm going to take this thing down and I'm going to spray paint it matte black. Black, you say? Yes, because I want this to have a MacKenzie-Childs vibe. That's why I'm also going to be using some of this ribbon. Not real sure which ribbon I'm using yet. Once I get going, I'll know for sure. But it's definitely going to have a black and white MacKenzie-Childs kind of vibe. She's done. Dottie's done. She's ready to hop into spring, and she's ready to meet all of you. Let's revisit Dottie's humble beginnings. Thrifted styrofoam. And here's my sweet little Dottie now. I added some whiskers. I love adding whiskers when I do characters that need to have whiskers. I added whiskers in this video, and you can see how I did it. I'll leave the link in the description box. But there she is, whiskers and all. You can see how I carved out her little mouth and her nose in the exact same way I did her eyes. And I even made her a couple of little bunny teeth. Girl gotta eat, you know, she gotta munch on no carrots. My bunnies outside never liked carrots, which is very ironic. Daddy didn't like carrots, she liked apples. Yes, she did. So cute. And remember, Dottie's eyes are just a couple of wood balls painted out to look like eyes, so you get a perfect sphere. And I built up around those eyes with that Mod Podge and one-time mixture. You may have noticed her little ears go down. She is not your normal bunny. She's a lop-eared bunny. Dottie was not lop-eared. I took some liberties there in the design of little Dottie. My faux Dottie. And there's her cute little tail. I moved it down about 1.5 inches, more appropriate for where her little tail should be. You have to remember, that's all her body is styrofoam, one time, and a little bit of Mod Podge. Thrifted styrofoam, by the way. All those pieces were thrifted at a very inexpensive price. Let's get a better look at that basket that I created the handle for. Now painted black with some pretty little trim, some black and white trim, and some shreds. Those shreds are just print. Black and white print shredded. If you're gonna shred things in your shredder, you might as well put the paper to use, and I think it looks adorable. Ready to be filled with candy or MacKenzie-Childs style eggs, whatever your heart's desire. Her apron is just a combination of 2 different ribbons, a wide ribbon and a narrow ribbon, and a little bit of trim. Both of the ribbons were wired, so it was easy for me to create pleats. I even used that polka dot ribbon to create a little pocket. None of Dottie's embellishments are permanent, so I can take these things off and change them on a whim. She can go from MacKenzie-Childs to floral at the drop of a hat. You never know when you're gonna see Dottie next, because she can be changed for every season. Thanks again to Monica and Jody for joining me in this Can't Sleep Creations Spring and Easter collaboration. You're gonna find the links to their channels as well as this playlist in my description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, share it with your family and your friends and anyone that likes DIYs, thrifting, repurposing, MacKenzie-Childs, Easter and spring decor. You can follow me on Instagram and don't forget to check out my shop on Etsy. Ring the bell for notifications of all my upcoming videos. Leave me a comment. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe. It's a great way to support my channel. But for now, this is Dawn with Shabby Meets Bling. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.